We're live.
We're live? It's just like the real show.
Yeah. Are we at the same height? We okay for height? Have to sit up?
Framed well.
Okay, so let's do this.
All right. Looks like it's time. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Zee and Zed Live. My name is Austin, a.k.a. Zombiehedgehog.
My name is Liz, aka Pezliz.
And this is our live show.
Yeah.
But typically, we're on Twitch, and we're looking at like monitors, and there's a chat here. So this is quite the different experience than normal.
There's live chat right there. We got live chat right there.
Perfect.
Yeah. We take bits and subs too. You can toss them our way, right?
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
So what we typically do is we stream on Twitch, and it's all about 3D printing, education, sharing, making, and just having fun.
And talking over each other, which we're not doing right
No,
now.
we're not
which
doing.
Is pretty incredible.
Well, because we're like right
Well,
next
we
to each
could be
other.
doing
It's
that right
easier.
now. We
yeah.
could do that.
Yeah.
So should we do a proper introduction of who we are? And
Yeah. A little bit backstory. We can go first.
So, we could talk about the origin of Zee and Zed. Do you want to do that or talk about ourselves?
Let's introduce ourselves first.
Okay. My name's Liz, aka Pezliz, and I have been 3D printing I'm in my 5th year of 3D printing. 5th year. I started out with 3D printing, I still help run MakerDeck, which is a 24/7 Twitch stream of people doing making and crafting, mostly 3D printing. And it just turned 4. And I started making content on Twitch about 3 years ago, like this week. And I do mostly 3D printing education, but I also have a show with Polymaker where I talk about Polymaker filaments. I showcase designers, and I also have a Sunday stream where we do community makes, and I have the show Zee and Zed. And with my Twitch streaming, I also do lots of fundraising. My biggest fundraisers I do every year are Stand Up to Cancer and St. Jude Children's Hospital. And my goal in doing 3D printing content is to inspire people at all levels, all skill levels of 3D printing, and keep them making.
Awesome. Yeah. Again, my name is Austin, a.k.a. Zombiehedgehog, and I run the channel Hedgehog Makes. I stream on Twitch, and I also have some videos on YouTube. I build 3D printers, I break 3D printers, I unbox 3D printers, I 3D print, I design 3D printed models. So quite a bit of 3D printing. I've been printing for around 4 years now.
Yes, you're in your 5th year.
I've
You
been
started
printing
a
for 4
month after
years.
me. Yes, you started a month after me.
Yep. Started off with a simple printer and then worked my way up pretty quickly, and now I'm speaking at trade shows, which is fun.
Yeah, we should also note that on Twitch, you have different levels of influence or whatnot. So we're actually 2 of the first 3D printing content creators that got Twitch Partner, which is a pretty big deal if you know Twitch. So we're kind of proud of that.
Yeah, Twitch is, you think about Twitch, you think about mostly video games and stuff like that, but there's a pretty big making and crafting community, and it's a lot of fun to interact with the various people. So definitely check out the far ends of Twitch if you get a chance.
Yeah, we've got lots of awesome people.
Totally.
Including Beardy right here in front. All right. So what's next, Austin?
All right. Who here owns a 3D printer? Awesome. So most of you guys are into 3D printing. I'm assuming there's a mix of old printers and new printers, and that's awesome. Because 3D printing, the whole landscape has shifted quite a bit in just the last couple of years. So it's been pretty interesting to follow that and experience that shift, the new meta. So we're going to start off with what we typically do is share our makes, and I brought a couple here to show off.
Just a few?
Just a few. All right, so this one right here is an IK3D dragon. So I printed that on a Bamboo H2C, a lot of printers. And I really like this one because of how the gradient worked out. This is all Polymaker filaments, and the orange gradient is one of their Halloween gradient colors.
Neon Halloween.
Neon Halloween, thank you. And
it's
then
UV reactive.
yeah, so because I printed it with kind of a gradient in mind, it shifted and it just came out really nice. So I like to do multicolor printing, and I like to print big things, so this type of thing is fun.
And that's Starlight Midnight.
Yeah, Starlight Midnight from Polymaker. They are a
I picked out the colors.
yes. All right. Here's one for you.
Oh, okay. So my name is Pezliz because I collect Pez dispensers, long story short. And when I started to reestablish my Pez collection, as I started streaming, people were gifting me Pez dispensers. I realized I have no way to display these properly. And displays for them are really expensive. And I'm like, there has to be a 3D printing solution. So this was actually a collab with K2 Kevin, where we created Pezfinity. So this is a Gridfinity. Yeah, it's Gridfinity enabled. If you print in matte filament, it's best because the little feet fit in. It's sort of like a snug fit there. And so now I have a multi-board behind me, and then there's a whole wall of Pez dispensers. So Pezfinity, exclusive to Maker World.
It's a very nice model. All right, I got one more that I'm pretty excited about. So I've been building printers for a while. I built the Stealth Changer, and I've been experimenting with lots of printers. But I recently picked up. Ooh, this mic-
Closer to your mouth. Yeah, closer.
I recently picked up the Snapmaker
I'll hold
U1,
it.
and this is a multi-material model. So the wheels are printed in TPU at the same time of the body, which is printed in multicolor PLA. And this is fun because it's using my own filament through Polymaker. I have Hedgehog Makes Galaxy Red. It's a beautiful PLA, nice and sparkly and perfect red. So this is one of my first test prints off the printer. Very impressed with it, and I hope to do more multi-material and different color blendings. I've been experimenting with the full spectrum color blending too, and there's a lot of possibilities with the tool changer, and I'm very excited for the future of some of these upcoming printers.
And that's a model that was commissioned for design by Fix'em Dude.
Yeah, this is a Fix'em Dude model. I have it hosted on my Maker World. It's part of kind of like his FDM line, Fix'em Dude Motors. So similar style, just a cool little futuristic truck.
All right. So what's next?
All right, next. Getting into 3D printing, because I'm sure there's some of you who have never even touched a printer. You have no idea who we are, and you just walked into a building with a bunch of these random machines, and you're kind of confused. So 3D printing is amazing because of just what you can do. The possibilities are almost endless. You can make things, you can fix things. I mostly make new models. I don't typically get into repairing stuff, but occasionally I do, and it's really nice to see that.
Yeah, and my passion, or one of my passions, you're also passionate about filament. I like using all different materials, playing around with materials, kind of stretching the possibilities. Any material that I can get my hands on, that I can print on with my printers, I print with. And so what I do when I'm making my content is I say, if I can do it, you can do it. And so, for example, I love doing things in TPU. It's super fun to print things in TPU because it's really unexpected when you hand it to someone and they realize that it's done in TPU. And yeah, we have lots of fun with that. And yeah, no matter what you decide to do, I think we're really good because we do pick a variety of things. We're always finding new models. We also happen to have gathered designer friends, and sometimes we make requests. Just sometimes, right?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. I always know when the conversation starts with "hear me out," and
Hear me out.
then he has an idea, and it turns into something. And also, Bearder Printer's here, right in the front, and he streams on Twitch, and we have encouraged and influenced a few floppy models that are successes, yes. And we have lots of fun with that.
Yeah, definitely. So my one piece of advice, if you are going to get into 3D printing, is it's there's a lot of things that are potentially overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. Honestly, just to get into 3D printing, you just want to get a printer and print some stuff, and that's it. That's the main thing, and it's not more complicated than that. Get a printer, print things. Get some filament, use it. Because if you look around this event, you'll see these crazy printers, heavily modified, printing insane things with insane materials. You don't have to do that right away. You can, but it's best to start slow and just kind of ease into it. Print some stuff, print other people's models, maybe start to design some models, but just start printing.
But empower yourself. There's lots of information out there. For example, if you have a bamboo printer, there's this entire set of courses that are free, Bamboo Academy, and you can learn about every single material, about all the ins and outs of your printer. If you're actually looking at shopping for a printer, they have all kinds of information. I know that Prusa has courses too, and of course there's a multitude of streams. I think the fun thing about being a streamer is that people can come in and ask a question and get the answer live, or at least the attempt to an answer live.
Sometimes.
But there's lots of YouTube videos out there, and I mean you've got people that like started at the very beginning of 3D printing, and you get the whole range of experience too.
Yeah. I like live streaming because of that. You can just come in and ask questions, and I do my best to answer them. And sometimes it goes into a deep rabbit hole where I had a topic, and then we go deep in the other end trying to figure out this very specific part, modifying Clipper code or finding a random piece on AliExpress. You never know where we're gonna get, so it's fun to do it live.
Or the bow. Like a couple of weeks ago, we had someone that was printing this bear from Maker World, and it had a little bow that attached to it. And they could, not for the life of them, get the bow to print properly. So I said, let's do this before the show. I sent the model, and we both tried different types of supports, and it still looked like chewed bubble gum. So whoever designed that, shame on them.
I tried my best. So
Demerits, right? Demerits, yep.
I think I printed that live. Like I sliced it. I showed how I would slice the model. I kind of gave my reasoning, and then I told what filament I picked. And then during the show, it printed, and I was able to showcase it. So it's always fun to do things live. I typically stream for around like 2 to 3 hours at a time, so I can't print everything live, but when it happens, it's always fun.
And we always love when there's something new. So, for example, when HueForge started, we were the first people to interview HueForge Steve. We were HueForging ourselves. You were creating models. I was creating models, and so it's really exciting when something new. Or a designer comes out with a new model, and we're the first people to print it. We're both sponsored in part by Polymaker and by other companies. So if West 3D has a new filament come out, we print with that or with Polymaker. And so we like bringing new things and because when you're 3D printing, sometimes it can get stale. Your printers can sit idle for me for hours, not days, but it's good to find inspiration, and that's sort of our tagline.
Yeah, we try
tips, tricks,
and inspiration. We've molded that over the years, and yeah, that's what it is. It's all about finding things to print and inspiring. Yeah. I know that some people in the chat sometimes say, "I have no idea what to print." And that's crazy because there's millions of free models that are really well designed, and on top of that, there's tons of paid models. There's
Maker chips.
Subscription services.
I wish I had printed more Maker chips.
Yeah, I didn't print enough Maker chips always. But yeah, it's doing the live stream, especially our Zee and Zed show. We try to explore new things and showcase old things. Sometimes we might find a designer from 5-6 years ago, and the models are still relevant, so we can showcase them.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite things this year. I say everything old is new again. Because if you go through, everyone's always looking at the top of the list. But if you go to a designer's profile, go way down to the bottom, because, if they printed that for Easter in 2016, it's still relevant for Easter of this year. So there's all sorts of useful things.
Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that you would want to 3D print and some of the things that I print. So to me, there's two main categories, and I'll talk about how they blend. But the fun type of models is what I always recommend starting out with. If you have a new printer, print something fun, right? Print a cool dragon or a floppy model or something just fun, something that'll make you excited, something that'll make you want to keep printing, right? If you print like a little holder for something, it could be fun, but I like to recommend printing something completely ridiculous and cool. So display pieces, toys, you can get into cosplay. That's a fun thing. I know a lot of people buy printers specifically to print things to wear and go to events with. Art like HueForge and many other styles, shadow boxes. That's a very popular thing. Decorations and gifts. If you haven't printed something for someone else as a gift, you're doing something wrong, because those are the most exciting things. You hand someone a 3D printed anything. I give my mom bird feeders or bird houses every year, and she knows that they're 3D printed, and she just loves them because it's something that I made, it's something that I got to pick the colors on, and it's a very unique thing you can give. It's not something you can just buy at the store.
You can even print your card. So Karen Chow has a design where you can customize and print a greeting card. So I mean, there's all kinds of it. The possibilities are endless.
Yeah. I have a note here for personalization. Even though you see a model on the internet, you don't have to print that specific model. If you wanted to, you can add text to it. You can slice it. You can cut it in half and do something with it. If you want to make a vase or a holder or something, you can modify the model. What's that new the surface texturing tool?
Oh yeah, CNC Kitchen has a new mesh something. Now I'm trying to remember what it's called. But you can take an existing model and bring in a pattern and put the patterns. Because there's one of the neatest things in 3D printing right now is crochet-like models, so little figures and stuff. But CNC Kitchen has actually developed a tool where you can either use an existing pattern that he has or bring in a pattern and it can apply to the object, which is really cool. Because I recently made some coasters for a Twitch streamer, Bricks O'Brien. He does Lego, but he also does Minecraft. So the coaster holder, which is a model that I designed, pretty simple, just enough to fit the circles of the coasters. I put the brick pattern on the outside, and it turned out really, really interesting. So there's always something new and ways to personalize.
Yeah, there's tons of free tools for 3D printing, and that's the nice thing about printing. Take a side note. The whole community is so open and inviting. 3D printing is such a positive place. I've been in a lot of different hobbies, woodworking, different electronics hobbies, and sometimes the communities are very split. Even just like picking a tool brand, DeWalt, Milwaukee, people are fighting left and right, seeing what's best. But with 3D printing, everyone's so excited to see the models that you print. So of course, if you print something, I encourage you to share it. Go online and share your stuff. Even if 2 people see it, that's 2 people who've seen your work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So the other section of prints that I wanted to go over is functional print. So this is something that you generally find a use case for before you go and print. For example, organizers, right? 3D printed organizers are probably one of the most popular things to print. I've actually designed some of my own drawers, drawer systems, and I've used many others.
You have? Really?
I have, yeah.
What are they called?
See, I have Screwfinity and Wacky Stacky was the original.
Yes.
Stackfinity, I renamed it because no one seemed to want to download something called Wacky Stacky. But that's okay. You live and learn. So yeah, organizers, brackets, holders, stuff like that, mounts, replacement parts. I've seen people printing knobs for various things. And not just printing, but taking the old broken design, modeling it, and then reprinting it. Because why not, right?
And then there's whole universes of organization, like multi-board and Gridfinity and beyond. Gerari has his sets of drawers. There's a whole rugged collection from K2 Kevin. Yeah, so it can be really fun. And what's really interesting, I think, especially for the designers, is to see what people have done with what they started, like their systems. And it's absolutely amazing. There's one person that sells little minis and things at craft fairs, and they took the entire rugged system, the drawers and everything, and they've used that as part of their display for selling. And 3D printing with the printy panels. Yeah, there's so much to explore, and my advice for that, especially if you're getting into a system or organizers or whatever, is take a look at the makes, because the designers can. When a designer is working on something, they kind of get lost in their own world. But if you look at the makes, that's where you get the ideas of how to do things. Also, if you're not sure when you're printing fun things. I guess I'm just going to go off script. That's me.
Yeah, go for it.
Look at the makes. Look and see. And if you see something that looks really nice, a lot of the time, at least I talk about what filament I used, or there's all sorts of inspiration from that part.
Do you remember post your makes when you do?
Yes, post your makes. Credit the designer. Talk about the filament. And even if you're someone who's just starting out, you could create some really good relationships. Absolutely.
Yeah, and speaking of relationships, if you see a model online that you feel could either be improved somehow or maybe be modified, don't be afraid to reach out to the designer, message them, right? If it's one of these public repositories, you can just DM the designer, right? I do recommend to be very kind and thoughtful with what you say.
Except a bearded printer. You say, yeah.
But yeah, you can work with designers. You know, there's a chance that the designer is looking for feedback, right? They don't know that they want it, but they actually could probably use it. So it's definitely worthwhile just talking to people, asking questions. A famous person once said, "If you don't ask, you don't get anything."
A famous person, yes. Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, that's useful, especially for these functional things, because you might find something very close to what you need. So it might be worth contacting the designer and saying, "Hey, I want to integrate this. You know, do you think it's possible? Do you think you can help me or direct me to something that I can use?"
And the designers you have access to, you can also suggest models. I know that with Bearded Printer, for example, he just came out with the birdhouse. And last year, at the end of the year, he's like, "What do you think I could make?" And I said, I'd love to see you do a birdhouse. And now he has a birdhouse. You can make it happen.
All right, getting back a little bit on script here. So that was fun and functional prints. So my favorite types of prints are a combination of both. In my perspective with 3D printing, I don't like to rush. I don't like to print super fast if I don't have to. I like to print something quality that I'm actually going to be proud of and use. So with a lot of the functional prints I do, I like to make them look good. Right? I like to pick fun colors, fun color combinations. I have more colors than just black and white, although they do go pretty well together.
Yeah, and remember, if you're printing something functional that you're going to see every single day, pick your favorite color. Like, honestly, pick your favorite color. And if it's something that needs to have, certain strength or whatever, companies like West 3D make absolutely gorgeous, like ABS and ASA. Cookie Cat has some gorgeous stuff. Polymaker's got the HTPLA range. So you don't have to stick with, black, white, gray. Although some people like that. That's part of their thing. But we are very colorful printers.
Right. And speaking of colors, let's say you buy a spool of filament that's rare or very pretty, and you're like, "Oh, I don't want to print with this because it's too expensive. I'm just going to let it sit on my shelf." Well, you know what looks better than a spool of filament sitting on the shelf? A final product that you printed.
A shelf.
You can print the shelf.
Yeah,
there you go. Yeah, but print stuff with your filament.
And over 4 years of 3D printing, I actually, when I first started, Polyalchemy Elixir was going, like, they shut down. So I did grab a bunch of that, but of course that filament is really not printable anymore. And I did print a bunch of things with it, but it's one of those things where I learned, like, you can't just have it sitting pretty. Go through it and share. And it's really fun to be able to admire the filament in printed form.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
All right, so we are flying through this. So typically with our show, a large part of the show is community interaction. So I'm going to skip right to the Q&A section.
wow.
Yeah.
Right
Right
into
away,
it.
yeah.
Wow.
So if anyone has any questions, let's see what we can do. Do you have any questions on 3D printing? Sure.
For beginners, could you give any advice for ventilation and filtration in an apartment context?
Sure. So the question was about filtration, ventilation of your 3D printers. So depending on what filament you're printing, I would recommend various ways of handling the essentially fumes. And I know that's a scary word, but everything makes fumes. When you cook, you make fumes, right? It's all about controlling it. So in general, if you're printing a basic PLA, under normal circumstances, I would say it's generally fine to not really worry too much. If you have a very rare case that you have small animals or birds or something like that, you should be aware of what you're printing. But the common recommendation is if you're printing a basic filament to print in a very open area if possible, and make sure to not just hover over your printer. I know it's fun to look at printers, but don't just stare at your printer for like 2 hours like this and hover over it. But,
I started my journey with ABS and ASA in June in Montreal without air conditioning. And of course, with ABS and ASA, you do need ventilation. So I had to have the window open and my air filter on and everything. Don't start printing that in June with the window open. That's my recommendation. But there are different systems. But if you're printing with PLA, PETG, TPU, you're generally okay. I have a high quality air filter and quality monitor. And when I burn toast, it actually shows up more than in 3D printing.
Yeah.
Now, if you're talking about resin is
toxic.
resin is toxic.
Resin is awesome. I'm going to say
Yes.
that. But resin is something you have to be very aware of. And I want to specify, we're mostly talking about FDM 3D printing with filaments. Resin is a whole separate topic, and that does require, for the most part, active ventilation and air filtration.
Yeah, and when you're choosing your 3D printer, you have to think about the environment that you're in and whether it's something that you can manage and what materials you can manage. And that's why I'm glad that, for example, HTPLA is now a thing because it can withstand up to like 300 degrees Celsius. So, I mean, there's lots of options now depending on what your printer is too, because you don't want to print things like ABS, ASA without an enclosure because you need to have the temperature maintained, all sorts of things. But yeah.
Yeah. So good question. I'm going to say that there's a lot more, like it's a very, very, very big topic on just filtration and stuff like that. If you are concerned about filtration, I think the best thing to do is buy a 3D printer with active filtration built in. A lot of modern printers will have activated carbon and HEPA filters. So that's definitely something to look into. Getting an enclosed printer that is automatically filtered. And then on top of that, some printers allow you to just hook up like a little tube and then just vent right out your window. And that's pretty good too, pretty common. But good question. Yes?
Yes.
Filament drying. All right, how long do we have?
Okay, I'm gonna advertise this. Okay, so we have been involved in actually lots of different companies for a long time, but Austin actually got to help develop Polymaker's Poly Dryer. He was on the team to develop that. I didn't use a filament dryer until the Poly Dryer. And I'm like, why did I not use one before that? I print a lot in TPU now. Like I said, I was exploring that, but also with ABS, ASA, definitely with PETG, you want to have a filament dryer. And you can get them fairly affordable. And I highly recommend it. A lot of people, their first answer to something going wrong in 3D, when you're 3D printing something is your filament must be wet. I don't think that's always the answer, unless it's specific materials. But yeah, talk about filament dryers.
Yeah, filament drying. Most cases out of the box, if you open up a brand new spool of filament, it's probably fine to print. Now, there are some materials where even though they come dry, they will suck up all the moisture out of the air right away. So you're going to want to actively dry.
Yes.
And the other huge disclaimer is it all depends on where you live. I live in Maine. It's not terribly humid, but compared to someone who lives in California or just generally the West Coast, seems like a lot of people require
Or in
filament
Florida,
dryers.
yeah.
Or in Florida, anywhere where it's very moist. It's important to not just dry your filament, but print out of a sealed, dry environment.
The other thing is, fresh out of the package does not mean that it is not that is dry,
Yeah.
especially materials like PETG. Keep in mind that the reason that they're vacuum sealed is to prevent them from any further environmental effects, and also so they ship well. That's why filament, for the most part, is vacuum sealed with the silica. It's to make sure that it gets to you in a certain condition. But something like PETG, I've seen people say, "Oh, I just took it out of the package." It's like, no, it's very hygroscopic. So filament dryer is a good one.
Can I add something here? So
Yeah.
Also too, like I'm from Houston. I also have a dehumidifier in my setup. Is that way there also helps keep the filament dry?
Yeah, of course.
As well. So if you're really in a wet environment, the dehumidifier.
Yeah, think about your environment. And the biggest enemy, I think, to especially PLA is sunlight. So I happen to live in a basement, which is very helpful. But I have rep racks with all my PLA out on display. But if I had the window open all the time, I would definitely be damaging that filament.
Yeah. Most people don't even realize that, but most filament you want to keep out of direct sunlight because it'll break down the filament. So for me, because of my environment, because I do run a heat pump, and that generally keeps my area pretty controlled, I leave all my PLA out, and everything else gets put into either a sealed bin. So I get these big kind of like storage bins, but they have a gasket on them. So I'll just shove a ton of filament in them, and then I'll put some type of desiccant inside of it, and that keeps it dry. So all my ABS and ASA, they're organized in those bins. PETG, those are in the bins. And then I have miscellaneous stuff like TPU.
I keep things closed until I use them too, a lot of the time. But for us, we are prolific printers, so the filament gets used. Like the stuff that's behind me and in my streams and stuff, it's not just display. It's being used all the time.
Yeah.
So.
And one thing I'll add, the Polymaker Poly Dryer boxes. The boxes are great for long-term filament storage because they have built-in desiccant. And if you're worried about them not being dry, you just throw them back in the dryer, and you can print out of them. You can print out of them and dry, so it's a pretty
and you can
useful
get 15% off. shop.polymaker.com/Pezliz. Get 15% off your first purchase. Or after you've used that,
You can go to polymaker.hedgehogmakes.com.
there you go.
Yeah. All right. You over there? Too dry. So when I first started filament drying, it was with a kind of a manual temperature set point dryer, and I cranked my filament just a little bit too much, a couple too many times, and the biggest issue with drying filament is temperature. If your temperature is too hot, you will deform and actually melt the filament. But in terms of too dry, that's still a topic I want to explore because I've seen various answers on that. I've seen people say you could leave filament in a dryer for years and it'll be fine. I've also seen that. Hello?
Oh,
I've also seen that you want a little bit of moisture in your filament. I don't know. It's a good question. It's
yeah,
never
exactly.
too dry? Okay.
And the other thing is, you have to think when you take a spool of filament off, if you notice that it's breaking, take the first. I'm Canadian, so I'm gonna say meter. Take the first meter of filament off, or the first yard, whatever. Take that off, and a lot of the time it's the outside of your filament because that's been facing the environment, and that's what's breaking.
Yeah. The taking the couple meters off, that's a pretty good tip. So just test your filament, flex it. If it snaps, if it's a filament that's not supposed to snap, then there's obviously an issue. Drying it is a good course of action. I always recommend just dry your filament. You're not going to hurt it by drying it, right? There's no filament that likes to be wet that I'm aware of. Maybe there is. But, yeah, good question.
When you do design, what kind of 3D modeling package or CAD system do you use? Do you do parametric design, or what do you do?
Good question.
I'm Tinkercad. Tinkercad and Tinkercad till I die. No, I love it. I have been able to have a couple friends that use Fusion and other software to edit some of my models, but I'm Tinkercad. But you do.
I've used a lot of Onshape. I like Onshape. The interface works really well for me. I've been getting into Fusion 360, and generally I make parametric models. If I'm gonna make something, I want the ability to just scale it after the fact. So I spend a lot of time figuring out how to make things parametric. My Gridfinity storage systems, they're all parametric. So in the modeling software, I can say I want it to be 5 wide by 3 deep, and then this size, and it'll just generate me a model, and I can export it. It takes a long time to get to that point, but once you get there, it's pretty nice. And I have used Tinkercad. My maker chip this year is done completely in Tinkercad.
Your studio setup, you did that in Tinkercad?
Yeah, I laid some stuff out in there, but Tinkercad's honestly one of the best overall 3D printing packages to learn for CAD, because you can do anything very, very advanced or very basic, and you can edit models and do lots of things.
But speaking of that, this year we actually did something interesting. We did a Zee and Zed where we designed in the slicer. So we did a low poly snowman, so a very basic model, but showed how you can cut the bottom off, you can line everything up using all the different shapes, and we actually had a little community challenge where people printed the most interesting snowmen, but it was all designed in the slicer. So a lot of things can be done. Maker chips, for example, you pull in the profile and you can do, everything for your maker chip in the slicer. So that's another thing. And if you also want to learn more about design, I would really recommend that you learn about slicing and learn about using your slicer first, because you get a greater appreciation for how everything should come together. For example, there are people that design busts and things like that. And if you don't design for someone to use the fewest amount of supports to make it as easy as possible for anyone to print, then you're going to have poor ratings, 0 stars, right? 0 stars, 1 star. But and I think a lot of designers are being a little more thoughtful about that. And of course, now people can even have full profiles with supports added. But play in the slicer.
Yeah, I like to design things that don't require supports or minimal supports. So every time I'm modeling, I'm saying, okay, if I make it like this, it's not going to be easy to print, or it's just not going to look good. So I like to spend time to think about how it's going to print. And you can always test print. Zach Friedman, he just did a whole video on how to design. It's a great video. I'd watch it. He shows how to take something, copy it, and actually go through and prototype and test and prototype and edit. And that's a very good thing to do. Just print a little bit, test it, see if it works, and have fun. Modeling is fun. It can also be very frustrating, so just take your time.
Yeah, if you want frustration, watch Bearded Printer on Tuesdays and Fridays. Also, Wexter. Yeah, there's a couple people that stream their modeling.
All right, you in the middle. Oh, the waste. That's a good question.
Okay. My best advice to minimize waste is get good at printing. Honestly, we do lots of multicolored printing, which is great. It does produce waste. That's just part of it. So you can plan out whether you print a lot of models, you have purge models, things like that. But from helping manage MakerDeck, which is 24/7 printing for 4 years, the biggest waste of filament is bad bed adhesion, bad slicing, wrong supports, filament that's gone bad,
Yeah,
or
failed
the
prints.
wrong filament, but failed prints.
Yeah.
That is the biggest waste of filament, I think.
Yeah, so if I have a failed piece, I try, if possible, I try to fix it. If it stops printing at the head level, you throw on a hat, right? Easy. Other than that, I don't keep my waste. I don't do anything with the filament poops or anything like that.
There's all sorts of fun things that people
You can.
are doing.
There's lots of
Yeah.
things. Just personally,
Over
it's easier for me
time,
just
yeah.
to not.
I
Yeah.
do remember saving all of my filament waste, and then one day I just tossed it. Most of it's PLA, so eventually it will biodegrade. But like I said,
10,000
the,
years,
the
yeah.
biggest waste is failed prints.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, you over there?
I just had a follow-up to that question. Is there any tips on recycling, or can this be recycled?
It's difficult because it depends on where you live. There have been programs that have popped up. There's maker spaces that were taking people's filament waste and making sort of Franken filament, but there's nothing that's like that we've really seen out there that's actually followed through.
Yeah.
I know there's been people that have that saved up all their filament, and apparently there was a recycling depot, and they got there and there was nobody there.
Yeah, for the scale of like consumer 3D printing, there's really not a lot that you can do, just to be honest. There's a material called PHA, which is just natively biodegradable. A little bit harder to print, but you can throw it outside, and in like a year or so, it'll go away naturally.
But there are people doing some really interesting things. Like our friend Layer by Layer, he takes his filament and he puts it on heat press, and he makes all kinds of different like coasters and things like that.
Yeah, you could take your prints, grind them down, make molds. There's lots of things you can do.
Yeah, a lot of people melt into and make garden stones, all sorts of things. But it's one of those, just the reality of 3D printing is you're going to have waste.
All right, time for one more question. You were in front.
I have a question about your multi-material model there. What orientation did you print that in?
Yes. So most of Fix Them Dudes trucks are designed to print on their side. So no supports, just prints directly on its side, and that allows you to use an effect sheet if you want. I typically use something like a Big Tree Tech Glacier plate, so you get the same finish on both sides. But yeah, just sideways. All right, and I think we are running out of time here.
Oh my goodness.
So thank you all for the questions. That was awesome. If you have additional questions or want to learn more, make sure to check out both of our individual Twitch channels. I am Zombiehedgehog on Twitch. Hedgehog Makes on YouTube. I stream every other night, 10 o'clock Eastern. So probably past a lot of people's bedtime, including myself. But it's the time I'm able to stream.
And you can find everything for me on Pezliz.com.
Oh, yeah.
And-
Hedgehogmakes.com.
Yeah.
There we go.
And I stream Sundays, Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. So every day but Tuesday and Thursday. That's when I actually get things done.
Yeah.
But
So thanks to Rocky Mountain RepRap Festival for hosting an
Absolutely.
incredible event. Thanks for having us on the stage here. I hope you guys all have a fantastic event. Make sure to check out the Maker Chip booth and the Pezliz booth. That's where kind of all of our stuff is. Make sure to be collecting Maker Chips and make sure to have a good time. Gotta have fun.
yeah, this has been Zee and Zed. You are?
My name's Austin, aka Zombie Hedgehog.
And I am Liz, aka Pezliz.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.